be highlighted by a number of parties who are involved for the preparation of the GDS. We were just awaiting a number of attendees to join our ranks. And there were a number of logistic points that Madam Alexandra is going to review with us so that we would be on the safe side. Madam Alexandra, the floor is yours, madam.
Thank you very much. Dear all, my name is Alexandra. I am going to briefly explain some of the technical features of today's call. This webinar is being recorded. There is international sign interpretation, captioning in English, and language interpretation in English, French, and Arabic. A CC button on the bottom of your screen in the meeting controls toolbar will enable the closed captions. If you need captions in the external window, the link will be in the chat box. The interpretation button on the bottom of your screen, presented as a globe, will allow you to access specific language channel. Please choose your channel that you will follow throughout the meeting. Should you have any questions, kindly leave them in the Q&A section. The participants do not have an option of opening the microphone and video. We request all speakers to kindly keep to time and keep their cameras off if not speaking. We are asking you that you speak slow enough for the interpreters and captioners to follow. Thank you all and have a good meeting.
Thank you, Alexandra. If there is any issue about the logistic aspect, please write them down and we will make sure. Sorry, I'm speaking in English. عفوا نحكي بالإنجليزي. إذا في أي إشكالية لفهم في الأمور اللوجستية يمكن أن تكتبوا يعني كومنت
If there are any problems with the logistical side of things, we are going to be watching the chat box and we're going to help you. I am Orteni. I am the moderator. I work with the IDA. I'm going to be the moderator of this session. And there are going to be a number of interventions. And between each intervention, you are allowed to write a number of questions which are going to be answered. And by the end of our session, we're going to open the floor for Q's and A's. We're going to start with the first intervention. And we're going to welcome Mr. Nawaf Kabara, who is the president of IDA.
فيكم جميعا. بيشرفني باسم الأيدا إني رحب
It gives me great pleasure to welcome you all on behalf of the IDA in this webinar. I don't know if any of you are aware of the Global Disability Summit, the GDS. This is an initiative given by the IDA so that within the period of 3 years, we create a commitment of the different states in order to commit to the rights of the persons with disabilities and to lay down an action plan for the future. The first GDS was held in London, UK. The second was held in Norway in collaboration with Ghana, and the third one is going to be held in collaboration with Germany and Jordan. And the upcoming one is going to be held in Qatar. As you all know, the most important thing about this GDS is to include persons with disabilities, and organization of PDs would feel that they belong. They are the ones who are going to be responsible for their summit. In order to do this, we started by sending a survey, a questionnaire for the OPDs in the Arab world, asking them about the topics which they believe are a priority And before we meet with our counterparts from Jordan and Germany, we're going to sit together and discuss the outcome of such surveys and questionnaires. And on the basis of such, the agenda is going to be the main agenda of the GDS. Then there's going to be the civil society forum, which is held before the summit, because the GDS is attended by presidents. This year is going to be attended by the Chancellor of Germany and His Excellency, the King of Jordan, and the representatives of the different states in the Civil Society Forum. This is an open forum for the OPDs and other partners and attendees in order to come up with the outcomes that are going to serve the GDS. In the session, I look forward to listen to the speakers, and I wish that you would give the speakers all your attention, because we are very keen to have Arab participation, and we are very keen to make the GDS a success and to have the largest initiatives and commitments of the Arab states. As you know, there is a preparatory meeting which is going to be held um, halfway in November in Oman. Uh, and we're going to be listening to your opinion as OPDs, to listen to your expectation from this GDS, and to work together to make this GDS a success. We look forward to see real commitments of the Arab states to serve the best interest of the persons with disabilities. And in the Arab states, we need the actualization of Article 13 of the Convention of Persons with Disabilities. We are aware of the situation in Lebanon, in Sudan, and in Gaza, in addition to the earthquake that took place in Syria, in addition to the other unfortunate circumstances and other violations in the occupied territories. We hope that you will give your full attention to the speakers, and that you would participate with posing questions so that we can participate and collaborate with you. Thank you very much, Mr. Nawaf. Thank you for your words, and I hope we hope that everyone is going to participate in, so that the Arab world would play its role in this summit. And now we give the floor to Mr. Muhannad Al-Azza, the Secretary General of the Higher Council for the Rights of Persons with Disabilities in Jordan, who plays a pivotal role in the next GDS. Thank you very much for our dear friend, Dr. Nawaf, and the moderator, and all of the attendees. First, I consider that this meeting is of paramount importance, although I have to leave immediately after this session. But I think that on our part, as one of the organizers and parties of the GDS, we have to highlight the most important points that are the cornerstones of the upcoming GDS. As Dr. Nawaf had just mentioned, the summit is an opportunity to gather together heads of states, which are not easy to gather in one place. The number had recently hit 35, and I believe that in addition to the heads of states, we're going to have a attendance of decision makers, and I believe the highest representation would be of associations of persons with and organizations of persons with disabilities, and international and UN organizations. In this summit, where there's going to be there is IDA and two organizers from the global north or the developed nations and South states, which are developing countries. And Germany and Jordan are collaborating. And we have been fortunate enough to cooperate with them as a co-organizer, and the logistical burden lies on the shoulders of our partners in Germany, and therefore we are trying to determine the commitments and the main axes of the GDS. The commitments, very briefly, is to determine the crux of the gist of the alliance, which is an alliance and a summit for persons with disabilities, and it is important to determine commitments in accordance with standards that had been reviewed by Jordan, Germany, and IDA. And very simply, it is important to have smart commitments, which are the smart statements. They can be determined, measurable, and realistic, and within a certain timeline. So that we would make the commitments real and not mere ink on paper, so that we don't allow any of the states to get away with unrealistic commitments. And such commitments had been suggested and proposed by regional and international organizations for persons with disabilities. The main axes are the main topics which had been chosen and determined as topics of priority to be discussed in Berlin in the GDS. The keeping to such a commitment would focus on one axis or more. The commitments would reflect the goal and the objective and would reflect the timeline. Also, we are committed um, to have the different organizations comply with such, whether regional or international organization or states attending. This is what the GDS is encouraging, the number of commitments that had been determined in London and Norway are more than 2,000 commitments. If I was right and correct, such a number of commitment is a huge number. It raises concerns that such commitments would be looked at as easy to implement by state bodies, and therefore we decided that the number of the commitments are important, but it is of paramount importance to make such commitments realistic and to serve the best interests of persons with disabilities. I believe that the real work starts after the GDS takes place, because after the competent authorities take upon themselves certain commitments, then the onus is upon the persons with disabilities to follow up the implementation of such a commitment, to make such commitments serious commitments. Otherwise, we're going to be just having high-ringing statements with a lot of commitments that would end up with nothing. Our follow-up does not mean it's just nitpicking or problem pointing, uh, but we are trying to monitor very closely using KPIs that would scientifically reflect what had been carried out and what had not been, so that the bodies who had taken upon commitments upon themselves would feel that we are serious about the execution of such commitments away from any niceties. Another thing that have been determined in the GDS based upon deliberation held in Jordan and in Germany. We have held a series of discussions, and let me give you an idea about the outcome of such discussions. I believe that there is a lot of similarity because the PWDs have common challenges, and therefore all-inclusive education, lack of discrimination, including PWDs in discussion of armed conflicts. And under such discussions in Jordan and based upon the deliberation, we're trying to encourage PWDs and their organizations to be more specific, because the more definite and specific we are in our topics of discussion, the more we're going to get clear-cut commitments when we lay down commitments like inclusive education in all levels. We're going to get better commitments. I'm going to conclude with the Amman Berlin declaration. Jordan, IDA, and Germany had worked to issue a declaration which is going to be open for signing, which adopt 15 out of 15 to encourage states and donor organization to make 15% of their activities connected to international cooperation programs, inclusive, not as a maximum, but a minimum. This is a topic which had elicited a lot of discussion, because there are a lot of international cooperation programs which had to give 15% for PWDs, and it is our role to pose questions. I look forward to see you in Jordan, as had been discussed by Mr. Nawaf, and because we are going to um, discuss a lot of such topics in Amman. There's going to be a lot of opportunities for networks. What is good in the GDS, that there is a representation of the Middle East and Northern Africa. There are representatives from the Global South and Latin America, and representation from the League of Arab States and the ministerial committee, including ministers who are interested in the Arab contract. We hope that the summit is going to be rich. We hope that the situation is going to cool down and things are going to stabilize in Lebanon, Gaza, and everywhere are going to settle down. And we hope that peace is going to prevail. As Mr. Nawaf had said, the situation is unfortunate, and those who suffer are persons of disabilities.
شكرا سامحني شكرا أستاذ مهند.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mohannad, for this introduction. We need to keep the pledges and the commitment aligned and sustainable. And we would like to remind that this commitment is not It's not in terms of a quantitative commitment, but it should be precise, to the point, measurable, that is to say, smart. We don't need to have a big figure of commitments that are not implemented, but we need it to be doable. We would like to remind all the participants that if you need to have any questions, you can drop it into the Q&A, and we're going to be ready to answer the questions in due time. And Mr. Mohanad, maybe he needs to answer some of the questions before going for his own preoccupation. And now to Mr. Abdul Qadir Sulaiman. He is the head of the EOPD in Jordan, and the role that can be played by the OPDs pre, during, and post the GDS. So you have the floor, Your Excellency. Um, the voice of His Excellency is not very clear, but anyway, what is the role played by the OPDs during the meetings of the summit, and post and pre? We have three stages, and we are going to discuss each stage one at a time. So the first stage is a pre-summit, and I would like to extend my appreciation to the AOPDs and to the IDA, who was very adamant in order to participate into all the consultative meetings, in order to be part and parcel and not just monitors. For this reason, I believe that we need to engage the people with the persons with the disabilities, and in the decision making during the summit, to take into consideration their commitments, their priorities. And Mr. Nawaf pointed out to some of the very important points. And I believe now and during the pre-summit in Jordan, we have a number of topics that have been detailed, that have been thrashed out. And I hope that what we're going to discuss in Amman is not going to be generic topics, but would be very specialized, very specific. The summit is not, of course, the right place to start negotiation. So I think that there have been a series of consultative webinars, and we have discussed all the topics, or the potential topics to be discussed and to be tackled during the summit, which is the inclusive education, the accessibility, gender-sensitive agenda, and also the status of people with disabilities during conflicts and disasters. So we needed to have a cooperation and collaboration between the different organizations, whether they are NGOs and the governmental organization. And this had been undertaken during our consultative meetings in Amman. And it is every day we have people with disabilities that are increasing because of the conflicts and the disasters that are hitting hard the Arab countries, including Syria, Sudan, Lebanon, and the Gaza. And And I believe that also the associations or the OPDs need to have access, equitable access to the support in especially during the conflict, the situation of the conflict, in order to extend helping hand to the people with disabilities. And I believe that international organization need to be sensitized on the status of people with disabilities during conflict and disasters. And we have engaged the people with disabilities, and we need to raise the awareness of the international organizations in order to engage them while designing the priorities, the plans and the programs that deals with the people with disabilities. And we have started a number of consultations in Jordan with some of the international organizations dealing with disabilities, and we highlighted the fact that we don't need to get the empty commitments that are thrown by international organizations. We need international organization to come up with concrete, doable, and measurable commitments that can be reviewed, so that it wouldn't turn out to be wishes, mere wishes, but it's going to be commitments to be reviewed, and those who are going to be they are going to be put accountable for fulfilling it. During the consultation, we have proposed to go into a partnership with different international organizations in order to fulfill and to review the implementation of the commitment. And also we have started to draft and to sign a number of MOUs with two international organizations in Jordan. Also, we have cross-cutting topics. Cross-cutting topics that have been tabled by most of the OPDs. We needed to survey the different priorities of the NGOs dealing with people with disabilities, and we were able to collect the priorities through these surveys. The feedback was positive in general. And we were able to gather like 500 answers or responses from the surveys. And for the first time, we were confused. What are the topics to be selected in order to get the priority? We sifted through 75 priorities of the different respondents, and we believe that some of the priorities that were tabled by some of the PWDs are priorities, like for instance, for association in Jordan, but not priorities for associations in other countries. So there are respondents who talked about the gender equity and gender inclusivity, and it was deemed as a priority for some association. Other association talked about the importance of giving due attention to PWDs during conflict and disasters. During the summit, we need to stretch this out and the list of priorities before going into the summit. And this is going to through consultants. And we need to engage persons with disabilities. We need to know their feedback on this list of priorities. After the summit, we need to be part and parcel of the different stages of implementation, monitoring and reviewing. And the most important thing is to keep the channels of communication open between between us and the international organization. Finally, I would like to thank you all for availing me this opportunity to talk. Thank you very much for the role played by the NGOs and CSOs, and I believe that this was the highlights of the engagement of the OPDs, and you have given us the importance of keeping an eye on the commitments, and these commitments should be plugged right into our priorities of the OPDs in the Arab countries. As OPDs in Arab countries, we need to know what are our priorities, what are the commitments that we won't see implemented in the field that is expressive of our needs and the needs of the PWDs in the Arab world. I wanted to get some or to give some examples of the commitments that were tabled, and I want to ask the participants to get the feel of to get their feel if these commitments reflect their own needs, or there are other things or other commitments we can table during the summit. The first commitment to have a commitment from the UNDP that runs from 2025 until 2027 to implement programs that deal with PWDs in emergencies, disasters, and conflict. These programs aim at including the PWDs in the different stages of handling the conflict, and to fulfill the International Declaration for the Inclusion of People with Disabilities, and also to the UNDP to finance all the humanitarian support that funneled to the PWDs during conflict and disaster and emergency situation. We want to ask the PWDs. Were you engaged during the drafting of this commitment? Do you consider this one of the priorities? Have you been engaged in the plans? Also, a similar commitment, the UN program for refugees that committed itself in 2022 that all the programs addressing the non-discrimination and non-violence against women and children to be inclusive programs for people with disabilities in order to have equitable access and to benefit from these programs, especially combating violence against women. So the question to OPDs: have you been engaged in drafting of this commitment? Can you play a role in order to fulfill this commitment? And so we can act as a force of impetus. Also, how to monitor the implementation of a commitment, and also we can propose solutions, elucidate our vision in this aspect, so that it would respect and honor their own commitments. In many a time, parties pledge and commit themselves, but they have a problem in the mechanism of the implementation of this commitment. commitment. And here comes the role that should be played by PWDs. It is not only through accountability, but also by providing solutions to fulfill these commitments. These are two examples of the commitment. And my question again, these commitments, are they sufficient? Are they effective? Do we need to have the same commitments replicated in the upcoming summit, or do we need something else? In terms of the debacle of the implementation of commitment, we want to give the floor to Mr. Muwafaq, the head of the Iraqi OPDs, to talk about the commitments and what were the role played by the Iraqi OPDs, especially the Iraqi alliance play a very good role, or have played an important role in the past summit of 2022, and it's going to play another role, a very effective role in the upcoming conflict. Thank you very much.
Can you open her
موفق already هن فتحوا لها already بدها تعمل accept هي already فتحوا
other
لها.
sign language?
Now she has been admitted. Kindly allow her to accept the invitation in order to join the meeting as Arabic sign language.
So, يلا, okay. Welcome, Eva. Mrs. So welcome for all, and we'd like to we hope for this meeting
احكي بعربي، احكي بالعربي يا موفق، احكي بالعربي.
support our efforts in our region to join Berlin 2025 in April. So I would like to back to my mother language meeting. شكرا جميعا مرة ثانية.
Thank you very much once again, and thank you very much for this for the kind introduction. Those who have preceded me in terms of my experts and panelists, I would. As a matter of fact, these are the initiatives that are considered global summits tackling the rights of people with disabilities. It is very promising to see a global summit carrying the name or the carrying and embracing the name of people with disabilities away from economic and social affairs. And now we have our own global summit. I still remember when we were in the London summit, when we had when there have been a very accessible participation for the people with disabilities and the different OPDs, and there have been a very intense physical participation from high-level governmental organizations, international organizations, and also authorities dealing with supporting the affairs of the PWDs. I believe this is the main gain when the decision makers, the competent authorities, design makers are at that high level, and they are attending, listening, debating, and discussing the people with disabilities face to face. This is our main gain, and this is a golden opportunity to have our narrative heard, to have our point of view elucidated in terms of our topics, like the commitment of the people to uphold the CPRD, and another very pertinent topic, which is a promotion and advancement of the action undertaken by IDAs and other counterpart organization in order to integrate the 17 SDGs and the CRPDs. And we had the 7 to 8 goals included in the SDGs dealing directly with the promotion of the rights of the people with disabilities in terms of education, health, work, equity, justice, partnerships, and institutions. The Goal 17 had given us a golden opportunity to partner up with all the competent authorities dealing with the PWDs and to have a partnership starting from drafting laws and bills, instructions, and going through the implementation and the enforcement of this law, monitoring the implementation of the law. This is in the actualization of Article 35 of the CPRD that deals with reporting. The country should be reporting to the activities pertinent to the fulfillment of its obligations toward the PWDs, and also the goal number 17 is very important in engaging people with disabilities in drafting the shadow reports in order to monitor the promotion and the advancement in a participatory approach for the UPS. This is going to be the universal review for human rights, and this is so that the people with disabilities are integrated in and their voices are heard in order to better improve the quality of life for people with disabilities. We're about to start the 2025, and we're about to start the pre-GDS summit that is going to be sponsored by His Royal Highness Prince Rad. There are going to be meetings would support and bolster the implementation of the role of the AOPDs, or the Arab Organization of People with Disabilities. And this is since this year, and even before this year, we're faced with a lot of destruction, wars, conflict that would put to waste all the efforts and endeavors undertaken in order to better and improve the life of the people with disabilities, undermine their own properties, undermine their opportunities to access education and health services. Now we want to highlight and emphasize our need to empower and enable people with disabilities in order to effectively and contribute effectively in the life through independent living, through education. And we should not constrain ourselves. We should not concentrate only on education. on education and disregard the other rights of people with disabilities. But still, we need to actualize the inclusive education, equitable access to inclusive education, and to get rid totally of the exclusive, isolating kind of education that are given to the people with disabilities that would ultimately leading to isolating people with disabilities in terms of health, even in entertainment. And we need to bolster the role played by girls and women with disabilities because they have their own role to be played in their own organization. They have to raise their voices in order to enhance and to promote the rights of people with disabilities, and they have played a major role in the Arab Forum for girls and women with disabilities, and they got the full support either from the League of Arab States, the last, or from the GCC and other Arab organizations. Now, there is the opportunity to compare between the different laws, whether it be international or national, in order to quantify the quality of the implemented laws pertinent to the rights of the people with disabilities. So the laws of ministries of health, education, housing, and so on, they have their own package of law that totally disregard the importance of inclusivity and equity availed to people with disabilities. Now there is a revolution in order to revisit these laws and to integrate the human-based vision and an aspect in these laws, and we should not overlook the role played by different donor organizations and international organizations because they are supporting and substantially funding the CSOs in order to play its own effective role that is in congruence with the challenges facing the people with disabilities in terms of building their capabilities in designing laws, designing programs, communication and visibility programs. We are about to witness a major summit that is going to witness a high-level presence, high-level attendance from international organizations, ministries, and so on. So this is a great opportunity for networking, for engagement. And we should exert an all-out effort in order to keep the needs, priorities, and the dignity of people with disabilities, not only in the Arab world, but in different parts of the world. Thank you very much, Mr. Nawaf. I hope that you have got a clear vision of the needs and how can these needs would be plugged right into this right into the priorities and commitments. You have the right to pose your question either on the chat box or the Q&A. And now we are going to take 5 minutes break so that the sign language interpreters would have a break. And then we are calling upon all the participants in order to open their cameras in order to get a group picture for all the participants for reporting purposes. So kindly open your cameras for the rest of the participants or of the interpreters. Take 5 minutes break. Thank you.
Okay. Um,
Imed, I'm here. Sorry, I'm just waiting. I'm not sure if Nawaf or Abed can turn their camera on.
I'm sorry, Greta. I am a little bit in bed today for a medical reason, so I cannot take the
No
photo.
worries,
Okay.
Nawaf. Thank you so much for being here regardless. I think, yeah, I'll just go ahead and take a screenshot so everyone smile. Sorry, 1 second. Wonderful. Thank you so much. Imed, I'll silence myself again.
okay, I will be back. I will tell the people that we are back in a few minutes. Okay, just
Yeah,
for 1 moment.
if you want to mention that they don't log off, that would be lovely. Thank you.
Okay. أي بدون أن تخرجوا يعني من الاجتماع يمكن أنكم فقط
Before you leave the meeting, don't sign out. We're just going to give you 5 minutes of peace and quiet.
وإذا ما سكتنا يا عماد شو بنعمل؟ إذا ما سكتنا
سيكون إسكاتكم بالتكنولوجيا.
بدك تسكتنا، ليه بدك تسكتنا؟
أنا مع حرية التعبير. أنا مع
عم
حرية
بهزر
التعبير.
عم بهزر عم بهزر عم بهزر.
عماد، ترتيب المتدخلين من فضلك.
ترتيب المتدخلين إن شاء الله الآن سيكون مداخلتك أنت أستاذ عبد المجيد عبد المجيد، ثم سيكون هناك سجع بالضبط. لكن الآن أنت savez-vous.
Merci.
De rien. J'ai toujours du mal à parler en arabe. Je m'améliore, mais bon.
لا لا، عربيتك سليمة جدا، شكرا.
عدنا مع بعض لمتابعة بقية هذه الحصة.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are going to continue our session in preparation for the GDS. And now we're going to give the floor to Mr. Abdelmajid Abdelmajid Mekni from the CRPD committee since 2021. This is an opportunity to get acquainted the expectations of PWDs and from the committee, the competent committees from the upcoming GDS, and what is the importance and significance of GDS for the International Committee. Thank you, Mr. Ahmed. It is important to say that I have been asked to participate as a speaker in this webinar and to think about some realistic or priorities connected to a MENA region and how could the GDS help in the implementation of the CRPD. This is what I've been asked to discuss. Let me start by saying that the United Nations evaluation of disabilities and development for the year 2024 state that the progress achieved to carry out the sustainable development of PWDs had been insufficient in a way that raises a lot of concern, meaning that only 30% of the sustainable development goals are insufficient to serve the best interest of the PWDs, and other fields had not seen any progress due to the lack of funding, caregiving, ICT, telecommunication, and also the inability to build capacities in times of armed conflicts and natural disasters. But due to climate change and the disasters and COVID pandemic and all the wars witnessed in the MENA region had negatively affected the implementation of the CRPD, the inclusivity of PWDs, and covering all the necessary fields is facing different challenges, including the social stigma and the inabilities to reach infrastructure, and also the limited opportunities of education and insufficiency of health care. And therefore, all of the competent bodies in our different states should collaborate in order to ensure the change of the mindset and the reality through building capacity, raising awareness, and focusing on five main fields, namely, first, enhancing inclusivity through the change of the mindsets and attitudes. We have to tap equality and lack of discrimination and reaching and accessibility to opportunities, carrying out initiatives and policies in order to improve access to public places and health care for PWDs. Thirdly, enhancing education and providing an all-inclusive education that cater for the requirements and the necessities of the students with disabilities, and training teachers in order to create an all-inclusive educational environment. Also, generating job opportunities and different training programs for uh, to suit the needs of PWDs, and also encouraging the private sector and the public sector to include all-inclusive employment. Thirdly, technology to benefit from the different digital technology like artificial intelligence and reaching different services, especially in healthcare and education for PWDs. But this is not going to be accessible except when the different states would try to spread the outcome of the CRPD and trying to inculcate the recommendations and harmonize the rules and recommendations of the CRPD in public policies, and also supporting human rights organization, especially organization of persons with disabilities, and also rolling out raising awareness with disability in the different United Nations organization in order to support the implementation of CRPD and actualizing rights. I thank you for your attention.
شكرا جزيلا
Thank you, Mr. Abdelmajid.
أظن يعني في بعض الكلمات يعني عبرت على ما
In a very few words, you have reflected exactly what we want from the GDS.
والتحديات التي هي بقيت
And
لكي نلقى حلول لها
and you have summed up the challenges facing all bodies interested in disability and the main objectives of the Global Summit of Disability. I believe that the path is long and we have to seize all opportunities, including the Global Summit of Disability, in order to enhance states to carry out their commitments in CRPDs and in order to create an inclusive environment for persons with disabilities. I would like to remind you that if you have any questions to ask, kindly type them in the chat box and we'll return to them by the end of the webinar. Now, we give the floor to a young woman who is who had Madam Sajah Amir, who had participated in the previous global summit for youth. Madam Sajah is going to be speaking about the importance of youth and the role in supporting persons with disabilities.
Can I speak in English?
Sure.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Here, how are you doing?
Just one
Hope.
minute. Just one minute.
Okay.
بالنسبة للذي يرغبون في الترجمة يمكن أن تنزلوا
For those who want to use interpretation, you can log onto the icon that looks like a globe. You tap on it, you click on it, and then choose the language you need to follow with.
Here, how are you doing? Hope everyone here doing good and having a great day. So first, as you know, my name is Sajah Muhammad Qasim or Sajah Al-Kazmi. I am student and an active member of the Iraqi Alliance for Disability. I'm from Iraq, Baghdad. I will be 18 years old after 10 days. So I'm happy today because I'm here with you all. So let's talking about these things today. I want to say that there's a lot of things I have to talk about. So let's start with someone his name is Mahatma Gandhi. He said that you must be change you wish to see in the world. In the general, a lot of change for people with disability has changed with people with disability because there are more than 20 million youth people with disability in the Middle East and North Africa region. The concept of disability and the development of persons with disability in terms of their political and culture, educational, and international participation have evolved. evolved. As we note, there are a lot of people with disability participation in so much places in these years, like in Paris 2024 Paralympics, people with disability have participated in it, and there's a lot of success stories in this, and I have I have things that I noticed that first, the bright development we witness, we must also focus on the issues of education and health and protection for youth people with disability in the world country like Syria and Sudan and other places in these days. And secondly, thinking about people with disability in the events, in the war events, and taking place in Lebanon, as I said, in Sudan and elsewhere. And as you all say, for avoiding jobs for people with disability, youth people with disability. And there's something important. I see it in so much places. Thirdly, reduce bullying of people with disability, especially on social media. Me as a youth girl who uses social media a lot, I see that many people with disability are bullied on social media and try not to be care, but some people with disability may become depressed because of some words from behind the screen. So in the end, there are a lot of youth people with disability are very, very strong and nothing can stop them. And as they say, the question is not who will let me, but who will stop me? Because people with disability are power and no one can stop them. And I will finish my speech with Walt Disney quote who says, the way that gets started is to stop talking and start doing. And I'm sorry because I'm a little confused, so I didn't really say so much things, and that's all.
شكرا سجست، شكرا ليك، ونقول لك
Thank you very much, Mr. Saja, and happy birthday. Happy birthday for reaching the age of 18, and I'm very happy to listen to the priorities that emanate from the challenges that the PWDs or the youth of with disabilities are facing in terms of the GDS, what should be included. Also, in response to some of the questions that have been recurrent on the chat box, why didn't you open the floor for questions and answers? We are going to do this within few minutes. We want to get the questions in writing first, and then we will be able to open the door for verbal interventions, and the things that we are not going to answer, we can answer them later. In addition to the interventions, I believe that our panelists had provided us with we got a full overview of what is the GDS, why is it important for AOPDs, what are the roles that should be played by the CSOs and NGOs and the OPDs in order to make this the upcoming round of the GDS a success. Before going to the question and answer, we want to listen to Jahda Boukhalil, who is the head of the Arab Organization of People with Disabilities. Thank you very much. My intervention is very brief, but I wanted to highlight some of what have been stated by Mr. Abdel Qadir, the head of the Jordanian Alliance for People with Disabilities. He said that it is the first time to engage the people with disabilities in to summit preparatory work. I believe this is not very precise because through the IDA, we have a regional consultation with different regional regions in order to propose or to table the themes that should be discussed during the summits, and all the reports of this consultative series have been submitted on the IDA. Maybe he wanted to say that Jordan is the first Arab country under the Jordanian Alliance for People with Disabilities, and the IDA were able to draw the attention of the government to people with disabilities. And but if nobody doesn't have a background, he believes that this is the first time to engage the people with disabilities in the pre-summit consultation. I don't want to be lengthy because we want to listen to the question. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for this explanation. Now we are in the stage of listening to your questions in order to be able to answer them. Before opening the floor for discussion, we have gathered a number of questions that have been entered into the chat box. The first question concerning the GDS, or rather the pre-GDS. What comes before the GDS, which is, I believe, is going to be one day prior to the GDS, and I believe this was question addressed by Mr. Mohannad. What are the role played by the OPDs in the day before the launch of the GDS? What are the role played by the OPDs? I believe this question is addressed to Mr. Mohannad. So you have the floor, Mr. Muhammad. Hello. If you allow me, my name is Ghadir Al Haris. I am the Assistant Secretary of the AOPD. Mr. Mohannad had to leave because he had other commitments. For the role played by the role of the PWDs in the upcoming pre-summit due to be held in Jordan, there have been a pre-consultative meeting for the organization of the pre-summit during the 13th until the 14th of upcoming November. The axes discussed the topics and the themes of the pre-summit. And also we have a segment addressing the CSOs and NGOs in order to introduce the role and the role they are mandated to them during the summit and after the summit. Thank you very much, Madam Ghadir, and thank you very much for the explanation concerning the pre-GDS summit in Jordan. And we hope that you would take into consideration the comments that have been entered. And also, Mr. Hashim had talked. Hashim from Iraq talked about a lot of challenges meeting PWDs, like, for instance, accessibility to education, the laws that refute the rights of people with disabilities, and other comments. We're calling upon you to take them into consideration. Also, there is another question concerning the axes that were decided upon, and these were the result of the previous GDS. So these GDSs or these axes, have they been adopted already? I'm going to give the floor to Mr. Abdel Qadir. Do you have the knowledge if there is an agreement concerning the axes to be tackled during the upcoming GDS? Thank you very much. The voice of Mr. Abdel Qadir is not clear. The voice of Mr. Abdel Qadir is cutting. We were happy to say for the priorities, we had a list of priorities. First, what are the topics to be discussed in the first day for the 15th Forum of OPDs.
فأعتقد أنهم ما زالوا بمرحلة النقاش بنهايات النقاش، وسيتم مثل ما احنا متفقين.
أستاذ عبد القادر، معلش كان تم قص علينا. سامحني الإنترنت ضعيفة. أوكي.
Mr. Abdel Qadir? We're trying to reach Mr. Abdel Qadir. No, there's no audio. Mr. Abdel Qadir? We cannot hear the speakers. There is no audio. We cannot hear the speakers. Apparently, there is a problem with the connection. Mr. Abdel Qadir's connection was cutting off.
Imed, Greta here. We can't hear you.
Sorry, I was okay, I was mute. Okay, الآن سنفتح باب النقاش مباشرة. يعني هل هناك أي
We're going to open the floor now for questions. If you have a question, kindly raise your hand. We're going to open your microphone and listen to you. Mr. Ahmed, there are those three people. There is Mr. Musa, and there is Mr. Salah from Palestine, and Mr. Said Saad from Egypt. All are asking for the floor. Now we have five. Very quickly, and Mr. Muhammad and Mr. Hashim. The numbers are increasing. We're going to give the floor for 3, but we're going to start with Mr. Musa. Kindly pose your question briefly and direct it to a person, and kindly indicate to whom you are directing your question. Welcome. Hello. Can you hear me? Yes, sir, we can hear you. I was hoping that the GDS and the preparatory meetings would include the top topics. Among the main topics would include the PWD's suffering from the Israeli invasion in Lebanon, in the Gaza Strip, and because most of the infrastructure of the PWDs in Lebanon had been destroyed, and the PWDs had been rendered homeless and are becoming refugees. Why didn't the Arab Summit and the International Summit take any strict measures to help the PWDs, in spite of the fact that the CRPD had included among its main priorities the protection of PWDs in areas of armed conflict. We are suffering in Lebanon from disastrous conditions. What could the Global Summit for Disability do help in facing such a challenge? This is a very good comment, and this is an open question. If you have anything, if anyone wants to answer such a question, we're all ears. Allow me. In the preparatory summit, which is going to take place in Amman, Jordan, next month, there is a certain session for the PWDs living in armed conflicts and natural disasters, with a special focus on PWDs in the Arab countries, whether in Lebanon or in Gaza. And for such a topic, we have designated a session. We are expecting a number of initiatives to support the states beleaguered by armed conflicts and natural disasters and impacted by the results of war, and through the fund for PWDs, and with an initiative from Germany, um, there had been focus on mitigating the effect of such circumstances and the PWDs living in them. Thank you very much. We hope that we can take into consideration the status quo of the PWDs living in humanitarian disasters. Now we're going to open the floor for those who would like to intervene. Kindly introduce yourself, Mr. Ahmed. There are those who want, but you haven't given them the green. They cannot open their microphone. So, yes, we are the ones who are going to open. Mr. Sayed Saad from Egypt. The upcoming question is for Mr. Sayed Saad. Introduce yourself and to whom you are directing your question, sir. The floor is yours. Mr. Sayed Saad had disappeared, unfortunately. Mr. Saad is not showing on our list, but there is another Mr. Abu Hassan Muhammad. Mr. Abu Hassan, the floor is for you, and please indicate to whom you are directing your question. Thank you. Madam Alexandra, would you kindly open the microphone of Mr. Abu Saad?
Imed Greta here. I see
This is Greta.
Said is back.
I see Mr. Said is back.
is, yes, he is. Oh, لا, he have a problem with the net. لا,
السلام عليكم تسمعونني جيدا؟
نعم
May the
نعم
peace and blessing of be upon you. Can you hear me? Yes, we can. My greetings to all of you. I've joined your meeting after the elapse of 50 minutes after your start. I'm going to pose my question, and I hope that anyone can answer me. I hope that you can issue a recommendation of the Global Disability Summit to incriminate what happened for, in the crimes committed against PWDs in Lebanon and Gaza, but also in Iraq and Sudan, Libya, Ukraine, and many other states. And I'm calling upon you to call upon the permanent members in the Security Council to issue a statement slamming the irresponsible stance of some of the leaders of the world. Thank you very much. This a comment more than a question, and I hope that those responsible for the GDS will take your comment into consideration. Now we give the floor to those who want to answer a question. Mr. Abul Hassan, the floor is yours. Kindly direct your question and to whom you are directing it, sir. Mr. Abul Hassan, we're calling Mr. He cannot access the microphone. Kindly allow him to open his microphone. We're going to open his microphone, Mr. Abul Hassan.
Imed Greta here again. I am so sorry. I can't see the name in the list of panelists. There is one name that's written in Arabic, and unluckily I cannot read it. So if that's the person that we're trying to unmute, then I would need maybe Jachta help to identify whom in the list of attendees.
Okay.
في محمد تكليف طالب الكلام. محمد تكليف.
Yes.
Mr. Muhammad Taklif is asking for the floor. Would you allow him? Mr. Muhammad Taklif, the floor is yours. Kindly pose your question and to whom you're directing it. There is Mr. Hashim Al-Azzawi. Mr. Muhammad, your microphone is closed. Kindly open your microphone, sir, so that you can pose your question.
Muhammad?
Mr. Muhammad? No audio? They are writing down on the chat box that they are not allowed to open their microphone. Mr. Muwaffaq, he is given the green light to use it, but he has to press the microphone to open it. Mr. Muhammad, press your microphone. It is closed. And Mr. Muhammad, Abul Hassan, and Hashim, Madam Marwa is using the sign language on the camera. Okay. Well, everyone has a microphone. Hello, Mr. Abul Hassan is on. Mr. Ahmad Abul Hassan. I am Abul Hassan Muhammad. I am from the Association of Persons with Disabilities in Iraq. In Iraq, unfortunately, those with a visual disability is suffering from a lot of shortcomings in banks and courts. Those with a visual disability cannot undertake any procedures without a proxy and an agent, and even the MasterCard. If anybody with such a disability is not allowed a MasterCard, but only for his agent, what are the measures undertaken in your states in order to overcome such a challenge? Because those with a visual disability cannot undertake their own business individually, but have to depend on an agent. And I believe that this is one of the most prominent topics that you should discuss in the Global Disability Summit, because such procedures impede the ability of the PWDs from living their lives independently. They can use artificial intelligence tools, ICT tools, to lead an independent life. And all of us has this at our fingertips, but the lack of awareness of the public bodies with such tools prohibit us or prevent us from leading an independent life. I hope this point should be discussed in the Global Disability Summit. Thank you very much, Mr. Abul Hassan. Anyone who have comments and not questions or any additions can be written on the chat box, and we have some of our colleagues who are following up the chat box. Mr. Nawaf are going to take all your comments into consideration. Therefore, if you have a comment or an addition, now we give the floor to Mr. Hashim to pose his next question. Mr. Hashim, the floor is yours.
شكرا عماد. حقيقة أغلب الدول الأطراف اللي سوف تكون في هذه القمة سوف يكونون موجودين لحضور القمة ويعرفون ما هي مخرجاتها. لكن سؤالنا هي ما هي مدى استجابة تلك الدول من تعزيز سياساتهم النافذة من خلال تفعيل سياسات الدمج الشامل.
What are the commitment of the government in order to implement the inclusive policies for the people with disabilities in order and we have the societal participatory program that deals with health, education, social status, which is equal to enabling and empowering. So I hope that one of the pivots, what are the inclusion programs that are going to help the government parties to the GDS to implement their own commitments. Thank you very much for this comment. Your question is, maybe we can find an answer from Mr. Nawaf or from Madame Jahda in order to understand the impact of the past GDS in changing the programs addressing the rights of people with disabilities. Do we have anyone who wants to intervene in order to answer this question? Maybe we can give the floor in the meantime to the upcoming caller for the floor. Madam Marwa, are you here? Mr. Ahmed, please, I have a question, and this question is addressed to all participants and panelists. Mr. Ahmed, Would you kindly repeat your question?
لحظة بركة أستاذ نواف لحظة
Just 1 minute.
إعادة سؤال أستاذ نواف هو
Would you repeat your question? Madam Marwa is saying, hello. One minute. Mr. Abdelmajid is completing his own intervention. Then we give the floor to Mr. Nawaf, and then we give the floor to Madam Marwa. Thank you very much, Mr. Imad. I wanted to comment on what have been stated concerning the participation of the NGOs and the CSOs in consultation and in building and designing the summit in general. I have a question. What are the Arab countries that had undertaken consultation with CSOs and PWDs in order to design their own commitments? What we are hearing here is that there are countries who are going to attend the GDS with their own commitments, but in general, these commitments, the PWDs and the CSOs were not involved and were not engaged in order to formulate it. This is a very dangerous because we have the IDA, we have the AOPDs, and we have another number of institutions who are formulating the question, but in the same time, we don't find any kind of coordination between the competent authorities and the CSOs and the PWDs. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Abdelmajid. Mr. Nawaf, you might be able to answer these two questions all in one go. The first question concerning, do you know whether other Arab countries save Jordan? Did they engage the PWDs, the OPDs in laying down and drafting their own commitment? And from Mr. Kamal Hashim, do we have any indicator or any proof that shows the impact of the previous GDS in building PWD inclusion or inclusive programs, save for Jordan? We had a partial consultation, but the government didn't initiate any kind of engagement with the OPDs in order to draft the governmental commitment that they are going to table in the upcoming GDS. But the AOPDs, through their own training, and the OPDs in the GCC, Egypt, and Iraq, they had training courses in collaboration with the competent authorities. This had created a kind of communication, two-way communication between the competent authorities and the CSOs, but no government took the initiative in order to open the communication with the PWDs. And this is the core and crux of our issue. We need to practice pressure on the government so that they go to the GDS with commitment from our own point of view and not from the point of view of some of the bureaucrats sitting back in the ministries. This is our main bone of contention. We are the competent authorities with this. We are the competent authorities to be consulted with the GDS. We have a vital role to play during the GDS, and we have to be the motor who is pushing forward the motor for the commitment. Most of the time, in the Amman summit, we have a session dedicated to the PWDs, and also an addition in the Amman summit. We have a session and a participation from the League of Arab Nations, and also representatives of the competent ministries like Ministry of Social Solidarity, and also a very intense participation from the PWDs. And I believe that this is a golden opportunity in order to open the two-way communication channel between PWDs and the competent authorities represented in the ministry. So this is a very good opportunity. And also we are always emphasizing the fact that the CSOs are very important in advocacy and to draw the attention of the government towards the GDS and the importance of submitting their own commitment according to the priorities submitted by the OPDs and by the PWDs in after consultation. Thank you very much. And would you kindly remind us with the date of the preparatory summit? It is going to run from the 13th until the 15th of November 2024 in Amman, the capital of Jordan. I wanted to add that the organization through the training courses and in Qatar, there was a session dedicated to the GDS in order to in participation with the Ministry of Development in Qatar and the Undersecretary of the Minister of Development. They stated that they are going to undertake a participatory consultative meeting with the PWDs in Qatar. And I was there when she highlighted the importance of engaging PWD. So we are trying to make the best of all the fora or all the networking events in order to draft together in a participatory approach the commitment. Thank you very much, Madam Iman. It is very important to utilize the presence of the League of Arab States in this preparatory pre-summit so that it would be able to ask or to call upon the Arab countries in order to run a national consultation and to come up with white papers or other papers that would result from consultation with PWDs and OPDs. So we cannot start from scratch in Amman. We need to have meetings that have that is preceded by consultative meeting on the national level, because this is going to give more strength to all the demands and all the commitments that are going to be presented during the pre-summit Amman meeting. Thank you very much for all the interveners. And now we give the floor to Madam Marwa. But I think we're pressed for time. We have two last questions. Madam Marwa, you have the floor. May the peace and blessings of Allah be upon you. Madam Marwa, she is audibly disabled, and I'm going to interpret her for her. I believe you have an echo, so kindly close off one of your microphone. So one of the two microphones or more than microphone is on. So kindly close it off because it gives us an echo. My name is Marwa Sa'deddin. And I'm representing the people with audio disability. Are there going to be interpreters for Arabic Sign Language in Germany, in the GDS to be held in Germany? And also we need we need to point out to the importance of finding job opportunities for people with disabilities, especially those who are deaf, and also to have interpreters for the sign language. Interpreters sign language. We need you to elucidate more your question. Would you kindly elucidate further your question?
Imed, Greta here, if you would like, I'm happy to answer
Greta,
the question.
I can.
ما أعرف إن كان سؤالي واضح أو لا، بس هو بالقمة العربية يعني موجود مترجم لغة
In
الإشارة.
the GDS, do you have interpreters of Arab Sign Language to be working in place? So if you're talking about the pre-summit to be held in Amman, yes, we have interpreters. And if you excuse me, Madam Greta, I believe that there are going to be Arab Sign Language interpreters in addition to the International Sign Language and the German Sign Language. So the answer is yes, we are going to have interpretation for the sign language in Arabic, German, and International Sign Language. There have been also you have pointed out to the importance of instructing or to teach the people with audio disability in order to teach them the sign language and international sign language. We have Madame Raja Yahya from Sudan. She wants to have the floor. Madame Raja Yahya. So Madam Liliane, and then we go on to Madam Raja from Sudan. Madam Liliane, you have the floor.
Liliane.
Madam Liliane.
Okay. Liliane تسمع فينا؟ Liliane.
Liliane, can you hear us?
Hello.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Good afternoon. Good evening, all. I am Barrister Lillian from Nigeria, visually impaired. I represent persons with visual impairment. First of all, I would like to thank you all for all the efforts you've been making to ensure there is equal accessibility and inclusion of persons with disability. Then my question is this, concerning the GDS 2025, the sponsorship for the OPDs, I want to know, would the sponsorship OPDs be for a particular piece or for some persons from a particular OPD? I don't know whether I'm clear. For the sponsorship of the OPDs, are you going to be sponsoring a representative from each OPDs, or could it be more than one representative from each OPDs? This is my question.
Okay. أظن أنه مرة أخرى يعني Greta, if you want to answer this one.
Greta,
I'm happy to answer the question, Imed. Thank you. So we, as the International Disability Alliance, were granted funding to fund roughly 200 representatives of organizations of persons with disabilities. The criteria for the funding and the call for nominations is available online. I will put the link in the chat box now. The application form is available in several languages, including Arabic, French, and Spanish. Of course, we want to ensure diversity, so depending on the level and the amount of applications that we receive, we will try to include as many representatives from different OPDs as possible. which means, Lillian, to answer your question, that we will favor one representative for each OPD so that we can represent more countries and more OPDs rather than funding multiple people from the same organization. Of course, in the online form, you can also download the document which clearly outlines the criteria for selection, where we will favor representation of youth with disabilities. We will ensure that gender balance is equally represented for the OPDs that are selected. Of course, Global South representation, as well as representatives of indigenous networks, underrepresented groups of people with disabilities, and representatives from grassroots and informal networks. I hope that answered your question.
Thank you. شكرا جريتا، شكرا على الإجابة. الآن وصلنا إلى
Thank you, Greta, for your answer. Now we reach the end of our webinar, which is a preparatory webinar for the GDS. Unfortunately, I know that there are many questions left unanswered, but we promise to hold upcoming webinars. You can always contact the IDA and pose your question. We would like to thank all those who intervened and helped us in determining our vision of the GDS. And to conclude, I would like to affirm to all attendees that the civil society and the OPDs are our partners, and their participation is of paramount importance for making the GDS a success. We hope to see a lot of you in person, and I hope that you're going to play a significant role in the preparatory summit held in Amman, Jordan. And we hope to see a lot of your efforts in the GDS in April 2025. I wish you a good day and hope to see you again. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Ahmed, and I would like to thank all, and I hope to see you all in person soon. Thank you very much.
Thanks to you, Imed. Thank you so much.
شكرا جزيلا.
Thank you very much. Thank you.